Chuck and Kelly joined by our legal analyst, Paul Harding, Martin Harding and Mazzotti. Hey, Paul, how are you?
Good morning. Morning, Chuck. Morning, Kelly.
Good to talk to you. So there's, this one of the big financial and maybe criminal stories we've seen in a while broke a couple of weeks ago. MyPayrollHR, that locally based payroll firm where all of a sudden, the CEO disappears and people are having money siphoned from their accounts, and there's all sorts of back and forth on this. Well, I thought it was interesting. It broke last week in the Business Review that the CEO, Michael Mann, the owner who'd been missing since the scandal broke with no statements or sightings, has hired an attorney, and that they've been, I guess, talking to the U.S. Attorney's Office. This seems to me as a novice like kind of an unusual dynamic.
The information is coming out in a really uniquely slow fashion.
Yeah.
Just getting pieces of it. We think we saw that the federal investigators were at Mr. Mann's house withdrawing documents. We think we know the U.S. Attorney's Office is investigating this. They've sort of said they didn't say they were not investigating, so sort of we can infer that they are. But here, hired an attorney, hired a good attorney, and I think it makes sense. That attorney reached out to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they are in discussion. We don't know where it's going.
In the meantime, they're looking at all these victims here. There's 1,000 people who had totaling in millions of dollars, looking at a class action lawsuit.
Yeah, it's the perfect remedy for that. I mean, class action shows got people who are similarly situated and folks who have been injured in a very similar way. You get one plaintiff, and there's someone from North Carolina who's the plaintiff, brings the claim against all the defendants, MyPayroll, this group called Cachet, other folks, and then other people are asked to join. So the folks who've been affected by this will get stuff in the mail. They're going to be asked to join this class action, show any monies and damages they've had from this. Really has been financial disaster.
Well, what's interesting about this, and it's kind of complicated how the chain of events happen, but so MyPayrollHR is the company that's responsible for, distributing the money into this account that's held by Cachet, and then they distribute the money to the employees. So the employees are also naming Cachet. Cachet says they're a victim in this.
Yeah, but they're in that chain of withdrawing money. They're the ones who actually withdrew the money, and then they had a little glitch. They sort of withdrew it twice from some people because it didn't go through the first time. So their knee-jerk reaction wasn't great, and yes, they proved the money wasn't in the account, which forced them to do the withdrawal. But the question is, what do you do when you're faced with this kind of thing? Could they have floated the money? Could they have kind of waited a week? Certainly withdrawing it twice from people's accounts were wrong. They're almost like, be careful who you're hanging out with. In this case, MyPayroll may be the real bad guy. They're on the hook.
Total speculation, and I realize you don't have anywhere near enough evidence, but do you think eventually somebody somewhere will go to jail in this thing?
Yeah, it's so early to have that conversation. I mean, we know that new banking regulations are coming. This is going to spur new things. And one of the things it's going to spur is the ability for the government to go into these payroll companies and do more inspections and more analysis than they've been allowed to up till now. So we know that's coming. But as far as what's coming here, again, this thing could turn out, we may find this is a computer glitch, and the glitch caused it to happen, and then Cachet withdrew the money and no criminal penalties at all. Now, the way it's shaping up and the way that we're kind of watching it unfold with lawyers, FBI, certainly moving in that direction, but too early to speculate.
Hey, on a totally different topic, there was a bunch of reports in the Glens Falls Post-Star newspaper about a developer who handles a lot of senior apartments, among other things, up there, and that he has a policy of not letting people out of their leases when they die. I was just curious, Kelly and I were, about what the law is on leases and particularly, that kind of a thing for an apartment or home, and also like for your vehicle.
Yeah, it's an automatic out of your lease, right?
Yeah.
When you die, the lease ends. You are out of it. Any responsibility that you have could pass your estate. If you have, the issues we see developing up there is that, is this situation where he's taking too much of a security deposit? Security deposit's meant to be, and folks, how we've all been in this situation, waiting for our security deposit to come back, but it's meant to be for normal wear and tear and damage, and then the unpaid rent, right? He had charges in there, $50 to clean out the door. Did you wipe the door down? Clean out your, and so these are the things that are being looked at. Is the money coming out for things that are just a little bit picayune? And then also, when someone dies, did he not return those security deposits? That one, again, kind of those classic cases we've all been involved in, waiting for our security deposit to come back. This will be interesting to see how this unfolds.
Paul Harding, WGY legal analyst, Martin Harding and Mazzotti, 1-800-LAW-1010. Thanks a lot, Paul.
Yep, talk soon, guys.
Take care.